The competitive 40K network presents Art of War. Art of War. Strategy and tactics. Discussions with the best players on the planet. Now your host, Nick Nanavati.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Art of War 40K podcast. This week, we are joined by a return guest, the champions of teams, Olivier Weiss, also known as Pyra Cup, the captain of Team France. Olivier, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Nick. Thanks for having me again.
Always a pleasure, my man. You are a great beacon in the hobby all over in France, and now you're making your presence internationally known. I love to support you and all the work that you do. And you've more than earned it. I mean, not only did you guys win the World Team Championships, which I consider the hardest tournament in the world personally, and then you've also now won the Pyra Cup, which is like little mini WTC over in Poland, which is nothing to shake a stick sideways at. That's super impressive.
Yeah, I love to say that is the MSI of 40K for League of Legends fan. It's like the mid-season World Championship with a training flavor, because I'm not sure every team goes there to win, but every team goes there to have the best training they could have against the best team in the world. So very nice to come back as a winner, but better is we had, as usual, a great experience. We're able to see the friends and practice the meta.
Awesome. Yeah. Having an opportunity before the World Team Championships to gather some of the strongest teams in the world and really test each other out, make sure we're all, the newer players especially, are kind of up to par, and all that is a necessary step in the process to really succeed. And that's basically what we're going to be covering, folks. Part one of this two-part show, we're going to be talking about Olivier, his captaincy of Team France, and like what that's looking like, how his team practiced and prepared for the Pyra Cup, and then what the event itself was like, going through the rounds, going through what worked but didn't work in the compositions, the different pairings, things, all that good stuff. Olivier, also amazing player, played Ultramarines, and we're going to break down his army list as well, and of course how that all works. And then in part two, for our patrons, our lovely patrons who we love dearly, that's where we're going to get into the good stuff. We're going to go round by round through Pyra, talk about it from a team's perspective. You know, which pairings were we trying to seek out and why? Which pairings were we trying to avoid and why? How it all shook out. And then actually, of course, go through the deep dive not only of Olivier's games as a Space Marine player, but also of France's rounds and how they got the win repeatedly. So you can subscribe to that $5 a month on patreon.com/AOW40K. Not only do you get access to this episode, you get access to 275 other episodes and all of their part twos. You get access to our amazing Discord server where you can talk to some of these top players at your fingertips, ask them questions, and generally be part of an amazing 40K community. And now you can play on Tabletop Simulator within the Art of War League. We just keep on adding value, and all you have to do is subscribe. Do not go anywhere. All right, Olivier, let's break it down. Talk to me about what running France has been like for you this year.
Yeah, so as you said, we won the title during the summer. So the strategy, or the question mark after that, is what are we going to do next? Are we going to go for the back-to-back? Are we going to try to make something out of this title? What are we trying to achieve, and what is meaningful? 1 month and a half after the title, we had our playoff that decides who is going to be the captain for next year. My team won, and I got back the captaincy for this year. And my main objective is now to do something meaningful out of this title. So, of course, we're going to try to get the back-to-back. But to be fair, I'm not sure it is very serious to work to get the title. I think the best you can do is working to be eligible to the title at the start of the event. So making sure your team is very strong, you got the right meta choice, and you are feared by the worst, not the worst, the best opponent in the world. After that, things are going to happen during the game, and things are going to happen during the pairings. So, in my opinion, it's not really serious to say this year we're going to win. But saying from now on, we are going to be one of the 5 teams that are eligible to the win, that seems serious to me. So that's what I'm trying to do, and to set up the France's performance into the long term. And that means trying to do the same performance with less effort, because otherwise it's not sustainable. Players got burned out, and you sometimes you will lose the pleasure you will have with the game because it's too demanding for a small group. So to be sure we're not getting burned out and we are installing this performance on the long-term perspective, I'm trying to deepen the pool first because I'm sure I've observed that there is at least 20 players in France that have the level to be one of the 8 at the WTC. And we are making sure it is okay not to be in the team this year because we are working maybe to be in the team then the year after or even the year after that. It's also an inclusive method or work method because now you're not excluding young fathers or young mothers or people that are having very demanding job. You allow them to prepare on a 2 or 3 years course and then be part of the 8 player that way. So that's what I've been trying to do. Deepen the pool.
That is some really great stuff, Olivier. I must say. So first off, like you won WTC, which of course, where do you go from here? That's a great place to start the question.
Yep.
And your attitude about it is so humble. It's very accurate. I think you're spot on. Like, you can't really just say I'm going to win it again. I mean, like you can try, but it's very rare to have a repeat winner of the World Team Championships. And then just changing the goal to always be a top 5 country, always be a real threat, make sure everyone respects us. I think that's like a very real, very achievable, and honest goal for what can otherwise be a place where you're kind of defaulted into saying, I'm going to win it again. But obviously that's you can try your best. And then I love your approach to making the team more inclusive. I know America has taken a lot of steps into doing that recently as well. There are a lot of talented individuals across the country and way more than 8. And then not only do you want to identify those people with raw talent that can actually, be competitive at that level, but you want to foster people and build a community in which the team gets better over time. And I think widening the pool to include people who are working more or have families and whatever, that's just a really awesome way of doing it. Obviously, this is a lot more to manage on the leadership side of things with a wider team and a development academy type style thing. How have you found maintaining your accolades and sharpness as a top level player, competing at Pyra, competing at WTC, while also trying to develop all these players and develop the system that which your country uses? It can take a lot of time to just be administrative and the leadership based on that. How do you balance that with playing Warhammer so competitive?
Yeah, that's very true. And that's also part of the answer of why am I not this time especially different as a Space Marine. But first off, we are having veterans now that are connecting much deeper than we used to among the team. And so I do not feel any need to get companionship to new players. This organized like kind of organically. So the only thing I have to do to manage the pool is trying to make sure I'm allowing in the new talent. And then we are having like peers review or peers feeling. So it's kind of organic. What is not is the rest of the logistic and the management, like the financial part. This year I got the captaincy with a zero budget or a slightly negative budget. So I have to rebuild financial support. That has been very demanding in the early stage of the season, because what I don't want, if I want to be inclusive, of course I want to be inclusive of young dads, but also I want to be inclusive of people that cannot spend 2,000, 3,000 K in an international season. So I want them to be supported at least for half of the effort by sponsors, by community gift or community support. And this also is based on our different content creator we have in France. Julien from Heavy from a French Rock Game Studio, and we are trying to mobilize the community to help our player. And in return, we are trying to be very present, very active on social medias and also on the community to make sure we bring the international high level back to the community. That's also the second part of the answer of what we are going to do of this title. We are going to try to make sure the community benefits from it at the maximum, and I'm aligning the players towards participating to a maximum, to the maximum of their ability or availability to content creation, to make sure content creation, even non-professional content creation, are fed by the highest competitive level.
That is all awesome. I'm so excited to hear that. You're just trying to grow the hobby altogether, make sure people have access to any resources you can provide them, and generally spread the good word of Warhammer. I'm so for that, Olivier. Let's transition a little bit more to your preparation for Pyra. Obviously, this is not WTC. Those of you who don't know, this is very much like a practice weekend that is a tournament. It's prestigious to win. You want to win. It definitely has accolades and means something. But it's also, first and foremost, like a place for the countries to get out of their insular thought bubbles where like America plays with America and France plays with France. And, let's see how it all comes together when we have to play against each other. So it's a great practice run, essentially. Now, with that said, there's a balance of trying to bring in newer players, academy members, if you will, that are trying to maybe earn a spot in the starting 8, and they need a little field testing first. And bringing optimized army lists that are going to work versus experimenting new army lists that you think might work, or new strategies that might work, because it's very open field like that. So what was your approach in terms of winning the tournament versus practicing the tournament? And how did that actually manifest itself in your preparation and your list compositions?
Yeah, so as you said, it is more of a training event. So we did not prepare in order to win. We prepare in order to get the most out of the tournament as intel for the WTC selection that is coming. So we did not build the roster on the meta level to win. We built the roster to see the player we chose to observe perform. Okay, so it was not perfectly balanced on the who is demanding or is asking for this resource in pairing, or is asking for this resource in layout. That was not perfect at all, and for there's a reason for that. We did not try to be. We just balanced a bit, but it was not really well put. Also, we had very short time to prepare because we decided to start the work after our first league day in France to allow my team and I to observe how the league went, to decide who is going to come to Pyra and who do we want to observe at Pyra. I believe it's been the same for every team, right? USA, England, everyone has brought people that wanted to observe. Some had more prospect than others. We had like 4 players that were champion this summer on the field. 1 world champion as a coach, and 3 new player, or let's say 2 new player and 1 veteran that you would know, that is Astartes, is a previous. He's been the French captain as well, so he's not a new guy, right?
So 3 brand new players, 4 returning players. The coach is now a player, and the former captain is a player.
Absolutely.
That's still a pretty good team. Like, it's not the world championship team, but this is not bad. It's pretty close.
Yeah, we were definitely trying hard. So that's for sure. But also, as this event is now the event you will expect the more during the year, because there's going to be the best team in the world. It's also in my team an event that you are waiting for to show off what you are capable of if you are a new prospect. And also you would feel quite excluded if you are a world champion and you're not allowed to show that you are still valuable to the team. Definitely. So I had to find the balance in between prospect and veterans. In the Alpine, where we went we've been in December, I brought a brand new team with 7 new players, and me, and I. So this first event was like wide open, and the second event was more, okay, now this is a serious time of the season. Now we are starting to bring veterans and very promising new guys.
Yeah.
So no special preparation on the meta level.
How did you go about determining what people would run? Obviously, players have their own personal preferences, and sometimes that aligns with what the team wants, and sometimes it just doesn't.
And also, sometimes it's about availability. I had like 3 or 4 three world champions that were not available for this event and made available themselves for the ETC coming, so European Trash Cup coming in the end of March. So that make it easier for me to choose. But
right,
I have like a team of a triumvirate, team of 3 people that are veterans from the WTC, and they are advising me on who to choose. And it's not only advising, because what they say, I feel compelled to follow, right? Because when they
these are
come to an agreement,
trusted advisors,
absolutely. When they come to an agreement, 3 of them, I have to be very thorough and to have an opposite opinion, right? So
right. I completely get it.
Yeah.
Cool. So you've got your team of 8 players, 5 semi-veterans or veterans, and 3 new guys. And what was the actual composition of armies that you did bring? And follow up to that, did you feel like were there any weaknesses or opportunities you may have missed going into it?
Yeah, so we hesitated to take the Votann because we were not sure it would work in defense position on an open table. Turned out to perform pretty well in the hand of a red slot. So that was cool. We also took the Slanesh Demon because we thought it was very, very dangerous for gun lines and could perform into bridgehead as well. That was an easy one, as well as the new Eldar, the craft word in the Inari detachment. Space Marine, because it was an obvious go-to, and we thought that the lossless the Space Marine could bring was, I thought, to be honest, not all of my team thought that, but I thought it was useful. What did you take? We took also the Bridgehead, of course, because this detachment is
been killing everybody.
Very busted.
You brought Chaos Space Marines, right?
Sorry?
Chaos Space Marines?
Chaos Space Marine, absolutely. Bile, because it's lists that can push very hard, and with only a little effort on pairing, it can push very hard. And if you cannot put effort to place the Bile Chaos Space Marine, it will still do well if it has this table, because you cannot push into him very easily. Yeah. So that was also an obvious choice for us. Necron as well, because it would draw most of the meta, and that's it, right? I
think you covered them all. Okay, so you have Necrons, which are like your blunting army. It can get a draw against something scary. You've got Bile, your Chaos Space Marines, which definitely have a great push potential, which you need someone to go get big points.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned your Votann is like your expected early defender.
Absolutely.
Table, I assume, and then like leveraging its firepower.
Mm-hmm. Votann, yeah.
Is that right? You were trying to find an open table with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I didn't get you. So first table, first defender, and an open table to get the first defender or second defender if there was 2 very big very big attack that the Votann wouldn't deal with. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. What was the role of your Space Marine army in pairings, or at least what was you think the role was going to be?
I thought it was gonna be like it was gonna be like a blank, but a blank on the late pairing. It was not able to go into first defense. Had too many hard counters, and it didn't need really table because it is quite fast and can advance and charge, advance and shoot, fall back and charge, fall back and shoot. Has also the lossless resources and the blast resources. So I built this Space Marine, bringing the usual suspect and what was very very strong in the meta, and bringing the two Desolation squads to make sure if it had been hordes, I would have completely crushed them. It didn't. It wasn't that hordy as I thought.
So, yeah, a lot more vehicles and elite and things.
Absolutely.
I gotcha. I think Space Marines are a great army to kind of fall towards that bottom of the scrum and just get stuck playing a game of Warhammer. And you on Space Marines, I think, is a great fit for that. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Going through it a little bit more, we have your Astra Militarum Bridgehead, which is just one of the strongest armies in the game. How are you trying to use that in pairings?
Yeah, like in attack mostly, because
just like to kill somebody.
The same reason, yeah. If you put them into the right pairing, they will push very hard. So if you do not have the bullet to kill them, and if you do not have the screen to prevent them from striking to your heart, then you screwed turn 3, right? So
yeah. And then you've got the Slaanesh demons, which can obviously get enormous points by running people over if they get the right match.
If you are listening to this, it probably means you play Warhammer 40k. And if you're playing Warhammer, you know you need a lot of dice. Baron of Dice is where we get our dice from. They produce amazing different kinds of dice. We just recently got all kinds of different faction dice shipped to us, which we use on our stream games. But not only do they look really cool, but they're highly customizable. You can get different symbols, corners that are square, corners that are round, different shapes and sizes, different sided dice. It's all the rage. And they're customizable in color and design as well. They are so cool looking. Not only that, but they feel great to roll in your hands. I've never held dice that roll and feel this good. Not only that, but they are scientifically perfectly balanced. There are tons of case studies on people rolling thousands of dice and recording all the results that they get. And sometimes you might get a die that rolls just a few too many ones. We've all had to throw it out before. These dice are not like that. They are perfectly balanced to a T, thousands of rolls, perfect distribution. If you want to take your Warhammer game seriously and make sure the dice are not screwing you over, get some Baron of dice.
You have quite a few armies that have the asterisk should get the right match, right? Chaos Space Marines want the right match. Your Demons do. Your Bridgehead do.
Yeah, that was the part what I said earlier. The roster felt a bit unbalanced on who is willing to be paired properly, who is willing to have table resources. If you have too much of them, you cannot give resources to everyone. So in that point, it was a bit unbalanced, but it was also what we wanted.
When you say give resources to, do you mean like give pairings preference to?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like pairing resources.
Yeah.
My thinking there is
everybody doesn't get to choose their game, right?
That's it, and everybody doesn't get to choose their layout.
Right.
But that was okay, because what I wanted to see is how different players are able to perform in taking turns, right? Making a rotation on that. And so it was okay to have an unbalanced roster on this event, because the intention was to see them perform, see the player perform.
Yeah, of course. And then with respect to your Death Guard and your Eldar, I'm very curious. You always seem to be bringing Death Guard, right? Like you had them at the World WTC, you have them now at Pyra. As far as I can tell, Death Guard are a pretty not very popular choice because they're slow and it's not that deep. But you can always bring them, and it always does well for you. What is the secret sauce here?
Yeah, the secret sauce is at first we were not bringing them. We have this new player that is called LBS that performed very well in the Alpine Cup. Ended up by being the best scorer with the 1,000 Sun. And he is a very good Thousand Sun player and overall Chaos player. And he was not feeling great into Thousand Sun. And at last minute, he felt like he had to change to something else. We realized that pushy army were coming more and more into the meta. And what the Death Guard are doing very well is receiving push. As you said, they are slow. So they will not push very efficiently. They will not rush very efficiently. But if you try to rush them, then you compensate the one default they have, the speed, because you come to them. And that's why we took Death Guard. It was like
someone
defense.
to go into those scary, like the opponent's Bile army or the opponent Demon army.
Absolutely. That's the two clients we were targeting.
That's pretty clever. That having an answer for your own answers. I love that, because you're bringing your Bile and your demons, and
Absolutely.
You're kind of assuming if it's obvious to us, it's obvious to them, and they'll bring them. So having that one step further ahead answer is honestly, I think, something that separates France from a lot of other countries.
Yeah, thank you. And also, when I said you want to have some balance into your roster, so you don't want to have 2 or 3 lists that are asking for open table. Same goes for a heavy table. And so the question is, who is going to benefit or ask for the heavy table? And Death Guard are very good into heavy table, especially in tipping point deployment or into hammer and anvil deployment. So that's also a reason why we took Death Guard over other codecs.
Why do you say Death Guard is particularly good at tipping point and hammer and anvil?
Because on those two deployment, when you get to choose a heavy table, you get staging points where you can farm your primary out of line of sight, and also staging point that goes very deep or very close to the opponent DZ.
So it's very specific to the specific layouts of tipping point and hammer and anvil.
Absolutely. At least it is not. We cannot observe the same thing on Scorched Earth, on the Search and Destroy and Crucible, but on those two, you have like quite impossible castle to attack on the heavy flank, or the flank that is the closest to your deployment zone.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. It's a great counter to what your opponents are expected to bring, kind of a meta pick within teams. And that's part of what the beauty of teams is. Like, Death Guard is not winning any singles tournaments out here, but it can certainly help you win the Pyra Cup or WTC. And then that leads us to Eldar. What was your version of Eldar that you settled on?
Yeah, we chose the version of Eldar that was inert detachment. We thought it was more tricky, and it was more...
Is the Ynnari one?
Ynnari one, right. So the Ynnari was more tricky and more efficient into a shooty army. And
that's so fascinating. It's just so fascinating to me, because I think, personally, I believe that Ynnari is the best version of Eldar, or at least the trickiest and the most opportunistically capitalizing on that and taking advantage of player skill. But we saw a lot of diversity at Pyra in terms of Eldar, to all kinds of results. Like, we brought Aspect Host, Germany brought Windrider Host, you brought Ynnari. Did you feel like you had figured out Eldar and this was the clear path going into the event, or were you uncertain before the event?
Okay, before the event we were uncertain, but for sure we have 2 of the best Eldar players in the world, in my opinion, that are Hugo, Quentin, and Arnaud, Matthieu. So I was quite confident in their intelligence and in their list building to perform. Yeah, they were humble into their proposition, because no one knew what the meta would be. It was I think the first team tournament after the release of Eldar and Astra Militarum, at least one of the major one. And we didn't know where it was gonna go. And I think they decided to go that way because among all the detachment, it's the one that is the less easy to read. It has like a Thousand Sun flavor, right? So when you do not have, you need to do like 10 games to figure it out as an opponent to in a raid. Before you've done those reps and you've been gone through this game hygiene. Before that, you will be flipped like 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah, there's so many ways to accidentally lose to Ynnari.
Absolutely.
That if you're putting someone there for the first or second time, you're really taking advantage of the skill. The lack of experience, I should say.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a really powerful tool in teams. Like if you can get someone in an uncomfortable, unfamiliar position and leverage an experience advantage, that can really lead to missed matrix scores and kind of rounds getting out of hand. And I think it's a great choice strategically. Just the fact that Ynnari as an army identity really is complicated and takes a lot of mental power to even play against. And definitely it's hard to play against optimally. So that was a really great call. I liked that quite a bit.
And also, when you do not know where it goes, if you are sure that every team are going to come with a craft word, the argument that won the choice is at least we think we are going to win the mirror. So I think this detachment is going to win against Craftword. So that we were pretty sure. But what you write about Eldar, I think it is what the key of our victory. Not only our choice, because our Eldar was the best performer of the event, 90 out of 100, I think. Yeah. So it was 4 29 and 1 10-10. But also we were attacked by Eldars the first day 3 times into our Chaos Space Marine. That was Defender. And we couldn't dream of something better because we would have attacked Eldar if we were not in defense. So Eldar against us first day has been crushed by our Chaos Space Marine every single time.
Wow.
So I think the team had not figured properly how it's, and it's normal because it was the first event. But I figured properly what are the counter, what are the targets.
Right.
That was not sure. Yeah.
Are you concerned at all that France has maybe tipped their hand and revealed some of your secrets for WTC at practice? No. No,
not at all. Because I suppose Game Workshop said, well, a data slate every 3 months, so we're expecting one soon because last one was in December. If we expect some a data slate soon, then we're gonna have one in June or July. So we are 2 data slate away from the WTC and all the Chaos Codex as well, detachment. Yeah. So
there's just a lot of rules changes between now and then.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it too. So a couple more questions, Olivier, before we head over to part 2 and really go through the stories of the rounds and all that. Was there any of the armies that you brought like duds? Did anything not work out for you?
Yeah. The Space Marine.
This is the one you played. Oh, no.
Yeah, absolutely. I have 2 reasons. One is an excuse, to be honest, and the other is a true reason.
Yeah.
The first one is the reason is we didn't know what the meta was going to be, and the Space Marine is a very vast building environment.
Right.
That's it. And not knowing what you are trying to hunt, what you are trying to blank, what you are trying to resist is a bit difficult to decide where you go with the Space Marine. Right after the event in the plane, I've built some wide lists that were much more exciting than the one I brought into Pyra. The other reason is an excuse is that the early season was very demanding on me, and I think I didn't have the hygiene, the game or the work hygiene to build something very interesting or very different as I do quite often. Now I'm having more time and I'm getting more pleasure into finding new lists, and I'm very eager to read this data slate that is apparently coming, because it's going to define the meta for the 3 next month. Why it didn't perform? It didn't perform because it is you leave too many choice in the opponent hands. you are very deadly. You are an Ultramarine. You have a lot of firepower. You have Guilliman. You have Calgar. But you have those obese unit in the middle, Calgar, Guilliman. Then you are left with fewer chaff unit on the flanks. And also, you can only receive. You cannot really push, right? Because if you try to push with that many vehicle hoe, then you can be very hard flipped. So you can only receive, and there are a lot of pusher lists at the moment in the meta. You have the Innery, you have the Chaos Space Marine, the Demon, the Votann that can be very deadly, especially if they get the first turn, that gambles your Ultramarine plan. So to be honest, I didn't really feel right with my list in the Pyra. It felt like I was not making the choices, and also Guilliman didn't came back at all.
That's not going to help. That's not going to help. Yeah. It's very fascinating because you brought like what I would consider a very standard Ultramarines Gladius list, which is like dominating the singles meta right now. But it's not that specialized in a team's environment, which leaves it a little bit homeless.
Absolutely. No Space Marine performed at the event. None.
That is crazy, but I suppose very telling. I'm very excited to hear about your performance with Space Marines and your performance as France round by round, Olivier. I think this is a great stopping point for the conversation here. We're really going to get into the details of how you played your games that you played, what you got paired into, and overall how pairings went for France in each round. If you're interested in that conversation, folks, don't go anywhere. Just sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/AOW40K. You get access to that part 2, along with 275 other part 2s and our Discord server. But Olivier, before we head over to that, I got one more question.
Yeah.
If you had a piece of advice for an aspiring Warhammer team, someone looking to take their Warhammer team and perform more competitively, whether it's in their tournaments or their leagues, or even make their own WTC team, what would that advice be?
Wow, a WTC team. It wouldn't be the same advice for a WTC team or a team that would perform into events, but I would say try to find your specialists. Meta chaser are not going to make nice or good teammates. They are good in single, but you will need specialists of codex that are sticking to their strategy, of getting expertise on every single data sheet, so that they will know what to take into what meta to give solution onto the pairing process, and mainly try to preserve the joy you have into playing. So do not force people to play what the meta dictates. Let them play what they like, and do not select them if they are not meta, but let them play what they like. That's the only way you get better. You will not get better without doing what you like.
Absolutely. I think that's the advice for everybody in this hobby. Don't ever lose your enjoyment for it. Olivia, you're such a wonderful guest. I love when you come on. I feel like I always learn so much, which is genuinely amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. All right, folks. Catch us over in part 2, and we'll see you later.
Like what you just listened to? Check out Art of War Down Under and Art of War Unbroken on the competitive 40K network. TheArtofWar40K.com.